A lot of you know my story, but just to recap, 3 years old to 23, I played hockey every single day. And then I moved to California because what I wanted to do next every single day was be in the gyms because I started falling in love with the gyms. So, moved to California, opened and operated gyms every single day for 10 years. And then, as that was coming to a close, I was getting disillusioned with the gym industry. And so I really liked a lot of things, but I remember there was a process I went through, which I would like to talk about in this session. But I went through this process, and within 2 years, well, first I wanted to do nothing, and so I did nothing for 2 years. And then after 2 years, when I wanted to be a productive member of society, I came out and I manifested what I wrote down when I was closing my gyms on what I wanted my next business to be, which was no overhead, no location dependence, and no employees. And I got exactly that in the manifestation of my next career, which is what I do with our team at the Wellness Legacy Club. We help people out with guaranteed money back, scientifically proven to do things no other foods can do, superfoods. And we also help other people out who have clients. We help them to help out their clients. And this is a way that I can do it with no overhead, no employees, and no location dependence. And the employee thing is weird because I was taught by my father that an employee is somebody that you make more money of and you pay less money to. He taught me that by giving me $10 to move a pile of dirt from the front yard to the backyard, and he told me to pay my brother $5 to do it, and then I keep $5, my brother gets $5, but I do none of the work. And it didn't work out because I told my brother, hey, we're going to each get $5 to move the dirt to the backyard. And my dad was like, no, that's not what I told you to do. I told you to tell him and make him do it for $5. And he was trying to teach me about capitalism and employees. And I didn't really get the lesson then, but I did get it when I owned my gyms. And it didn't really feel good to do that, to utilize people as tools in a way that never really made them feel good about themselves. And so what I get to do now is take on people and partner with them and show them how to win. And when they win, we both win. We both get paid. And that is what we do with our superfoods. And it's amazing. And the impact that we make with our clients is one that is profound and it's guaranteed, actually. So, what is the secret? What do we do? First of all, is having this base level intention that we are going to be the best at what it is that we do. So, back to hockey. Our team won nationals twice. I have a state championship as well. And yeah, I was good, but I also remember intending on those things to happen. I envisioned those things to happen before they happened and as they were happening. I remember one year my college hockey team was doing very poorly. And then the next year, at the beginning of the year, I just wrote down in my notebook because I started meditating, harmonizing with the earth when I was 19. And I was like, well, if this stuff works, I should be able to win nationals, even though our team did horrible last year. And so I wrote down, we are winning nationals. And then that year we won nationals, which was amazing. And then I decided, well, if that was true, then I should be able to move to California and create a gym. And I was very specific on what I wanted in that gym. And I moved to California and I literally created that exact gym. Exactly how I was imagining it. And so what does that look like? So specificity is what I just mentioned, right? Being specific on our creations allows us to set the algorithm in our mind so that the things that are necessary to lay out the trail and continue our momentum down this trail, specificity allows us to recognize the keys that we'll need. And so gym ownership, first of all, I used a little bit of anger as well. So emotional intensity will help our clarity because now we have tied energy within itself that is unresolved and tense, And this intention promises the possibility of resolution to that tension. And so sometimes you can use things like anger or wanting to be first. And especially when I said, whatever you're doing, set out to be the best. That's going to put your heart in alignment to it. And a lot of times, sometimes, especially if you're younger, competition helps, or fueling that you get ahead of others can help be the fire that aligns you to being the best. And when you're aligned to being the best, you're aligned to doing it greatly. You're aligned to your entire being into it. You obsess about it. And so if you're going through life kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, half-assing it, there's not really ever any alignment. So when it comes to choosing a career, choosing what you would like to do, and this could even be, I would like to sit under waterfalls every single day. And I did that after I closed my gyms. I was completely in alignment with decompression and learning and experiencing, connecting with nature and experiencing just the beauty of life. And I was in complete alignment with that, and I was supported. I was able to live my same exact lifestyle that I had when I was working, I don't know how many hours in the gym, a lot of hours, and stressing basically full time, 24/7 about it. And I was able to still maintain the lifestyle with the money. I actually upgraded my living situation, my cars, like got like anything that I needed was there. And why would I need it? I needed it because my absolute intention was to relax underneath waterfalls. And so the way that I do that is in style, eating super organic food, going to Erewhon 3 times a day, and drinking, $20 smoothies and $25 little ice cream things from Erewhon, and $15 desserts, and like whatever I needed was provided because I was in absolute alignment with taking baths in mud, sitting in hot springs, going to waterfalls. That was my life. And so we're able to do this if we're in alignment. It's this 1 foot in, 1 foot out that really destroys that. That sabotages any sort of alignment. And so whatever it is, I'm not saying it needs to be career. It could be anything. It could be relationship. It can be starting a business. It could be contributing. It could be creating art. Could be refining a skill. It could be sports, like I said. As long as the intention is, I'm going to give it my all. So that's one golden thread that underlies all success is give it your all, strive to be the best. The second one is clarity and specificity. So when it comes to the gym, it's like, gym, I want a gym. And it's like, well, where do you want the gym? Well, it's going to be in California because that's where everyone does the gym stuff. That's the leader of the world. That's the Mecca. And so it's California. All right, what does it look like? It's going to be big open spaces, not a lot of machines. Dynamic, athletic, ropes hanging from the ceiling, big tractor tires, turf, all the stuff like that. Athletic gyms. And when was this? 2000-ish, early 2000, right? There wasn't gyms like that, many of them back then. So I moved to California, and within 2 years, I had that, a 10,000 square foot facility, big, huge open spaces. It was a 100-year-old hotel lobby, ex-hotel lobby. Now it was a gym. Just like the mixture of Tyler Durden and Captain Jack Sparrow, if those two people partnered together to open a gym, that's what this gym looked like. And that was the character, that was the intention I had. And so we've got be the best, be very specific, because if it was like, okay, I'm going to California, what's the point of being in Michigan for another winter? I remember my birthday, stepping outside. October 13th is my birthday. I remember stepping outside and looking at the dead leaves blowing around in my driveway, and I was getting on my motorcycle, and I remember just like cold wind, looking up at the sky, and it just being like gray clouds and dead leaves, and just thinking, why am I here? The intention is to go to California and own a gym. And so that thought entered my mind because I had specificity: own gym, be in California. And so when something in my reality butted up against that, which is that moment on my birthday when I walked outside, this is supposed to be like my celebratory day. I should be in alignment. Should is kind of a weird word, right? And I walk outside and I see something that was absolutely not in alignment with my vision. And in that moment, I was like, I decided I'm going. October 31st, so what is that? A little bit over 2 weeks later, I land in California, Laguna Beach. I also had this vision that I was going to live in Laguna Beach and have a house on the mountainside of Laguna Beach and overlook the ocean and go to the ocean every single day. And that really didn't happen till about 18 years later. After I went and I moved back up to LA. I moved to LA shortly after being in Laguna Beach and created a gym, had a whole huge career of a gym, and then started the career that I'm in now and made a lot of money. And at that point, which is about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I moved to Laguna Beach and I closed that cycle, that unresolved tension, that intention that I set out to when I first originally moved here. So sometimes these things happen immediately, sometimes they take a while. But those two things are important. Strive to be the best and be clear. Next thing is, it's okay to know what you don't want if you are okay with an open scenario. So if you're not going to be specific about what it is that you're doing, how you're spending your life force energy, or how you're going to be entering in the career, if you're not okay with that, or no, that's not what I was trying to say. If you're clear on what you don't want, you must be, it's like you're choosing the wild card. You're choosing a wild card. Now, if you have enough, I'm going to be best, and you have enough, I will be completely aligned in it, you're going to be okay. But if you're clear on what you don't want and you're still like 1 foot one in and you don't care about being the best, you're going to be put into a position where that sort of energy is matched. And that's the position of somebody's BITCH. You're going to be an employee somewhere. And I say someone's bitch because you might not be doing what you don't want, and you might not be doing what you want. And you probably actually will be doing what you don't want because you weren't fully invested into not doing what you don't want. You weren't willing to volunteer to be the best. So you're probably still going to be doing what you don't want because that was the only thing that you were clear about is what I don't want. And there is no really open possibility to something that serves what you want. And so let me go back to what I was starting to say for golden thread number 3 is it's okay to know what you don't want as long as there's enough of you that have aligned values set. So there's enough of you that is both feet in on your values and who you are. And so you can say things like, I don't like paying $50,000 a month in overhead anymore, like I did when I owned my gyms. I don't really like the feeling of having employees that are relying on me to pay for them and taking from me and stealing from me, and yet at the same time resenting me because there is no way they're ever going to earn as much as I was as the owner. And they feel like they're doing all the work, which they might be doing a little bit more work than I am on a day to day because they don't see the work that I do. And they also don't know what it takes to start from nothing and to literally sleep in the business and get on your knees and clean the floors and risk everything to get it up and going. And so this employee trade-off really wasn't aligned. And so it's okay to know what you don't want as long as there's enough work that you've done to be true in your values so that you don't get pigeonholed into something that it's definitely not what you didn't want, but it's also like still sucks because you don't have established values. And so if you're not there yet, then you must be clear on what it is that you desire. And so if you're clear on what you don't want, then you must also have a matching pair of what you do want in place of that. So, an example of that would be I don't want to live in Michigan. This weather sucks. And at the time, I also had the idea that California is the place to be. And there's a clear example of that, like sunshine, ocean. Imagine living on a mountain cliff. We don't have mountains like that in Michigan. So there's like imagine of luxurious life, like beautiful people hanging out in the sand, riding your bikes on the boardwalk. So it's okay to know what you don't want if you've got something matched. Unless, so we fast forward 10 years later, after maybe like 15 years, 13 years later, after I moved to California and I already went through a gym, I'm very clear and founded in myself. I don't necessarily need to always know what the next step is going to look like. I can be clear on what I don't want. I don't want overhead. I don't want people working for me that resent me, and I don't want to be tied to a location. And so now I'm in a wild card scenario where if my values are strong enough, I'm going to need a wild card from reality. I'm essentially creating something that's a wild card. And what comes to me is likely not going to be what I could imagine, but it's going to perfectly meet my intentions because it's taking a mixture of my strong sense of self, strong values, and applying that to X. Like these are zeros, like we're not having location dependence, we're not having employees, we're not having overhead, and then we just get a wild card, like spin the freaking roulette wheel, and it's going to land on a version of that that's going to be perfectly in intention. And I also learned along this journey that if you don't take the door that opens for you, you will be punished. And there's easier ways to say that, but just for language purpose, that's the most accurate. You will be punished. If you intend on something, I'm going to go on a little tangent here. One time in Bitcoin days, I like one day I had 15,000 in cryptocurrency. And then the next day it went to 30,000. The next day it went to 50,000. It happened that quickly. And I was like, wow, I wonder if you can buy vehicles with Bitcoin. And so I looked it up and I found like the most perfect car for me. It just matched my personality so much. It literally was like glowing and pulling me. And it was the exact amount that I had. I think I think it might have been 75,000. Like so I went from 15,000 to 75,000 in like a matter of days. And then I searched like can I buy a car? And then I found a car for like 70,000. It was like older immaculate car that was a little bit wild. So I was the person for that car. And then I decided, you know what? I'd rather go up to 300,000 than to have this car. So I'm going to take my 75,000 and I'm going to keep on doubling it. And then in a matter of a few days, I went down to almost zero, like 5,000. And so that's what I mean by if you're like, if you're feeling something and you start walking in that direction and the universe starts to open up that trail for you and it reveals it to you and you're like, nah, dog, be ready to fall. Be ready to fall. So that was a tangent, and I took off on that tangent from the wild card. Now, the wild card will come, as I said, strong values, strong sense of self, absolute certainty on that's who you are, and certainty also of what you're not going to put up with. You've got boundaries. And so now you got a wild card scenario, which is okay. Like I said, I closed my gym. I had a wild card scenario, but I also was clear on relaxing. But I was also clear that I couldn't relax forever. But when I wanted to stop relaxing, there would be these no's. And that got delivered to me in a package called network marketing, which is something I was completely opposed to. And I'd been saying no to already for 5 years. And then I was like, it started making sense to me when Carolina, my now wife, but she wasn't at the time, started being interested, and I'm like, okay, well, actually, let me revisit this. And I was like, okay, those that are successful, right? Because when people think about network marketing, they're like, nobody's successful. So I was like, so then of course it doesn't match what I intend on doing with my life. Freaking scam artists, pyramid scheme, right? It's like all the things that people don't really understand the industry think that it is. And then because I did it once when I was like 19, 20, and it was the worst thing, right? So here comes this company. It didn't start off as an MLM company. It started off as a product company that then eventually converted to MLM to keep the how can I say this? When you go wholesale, you have to reduce the amount that you're spending on the actual product because the stores want to take all the money. But if you convert to MLM the right way, then you can still keep a lot of the money to maintain the integrity of the product. And so I looked at it, I was like, okay, so the ones who actually do this right, the ones who win, remember what my first intention was? Or what my first golden thread that I discovered was? You have to set out to be the best. Let me review them. You have to set out to be the best. You have to be specific. And if you're not specific, you have to be okay with the wild card scenario. And the wild card scenario only works if you have a strong sense of self, strong sense of identity, strong sense of values, because that's going to be enough to align the trail that you're on to your intentions. Your values and sense of self become your intention, and then you can refine it. Knowing what you don't want is a way of getting more specific to your sense of values. And if all you have is the no's, then you're going to be dealt a wild card. And so with that wild card, I look at it and I ask and I say, this is a package that I absolutely am repulsed by, but what are the people who win in this industry? What is their lifestyle like? What do they do? And you start reading books and you hear these people who are impacted tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people in a positive way. You see that they don't have employees, they have partners, and their job is to make their partners more money. It's like, if you can help enough people make money, then we make all the money that we need, right? I think Zig Ziglar has that quote, if you help enough people get the things that they want, then you get everything that you want. Right, that's it. Zig Ziglar. People like Jim Rohn, famous speakers, Tony Robbins, they all started in this industry. What is their job? Their job is to get better at leadership, get better at presenting, all things that I'm passionate about. Oh, I get to work on my presentation. I get to work on my self-development skills. I get to work on my teaching skills. I get to work on my ability to help people manifest and create lives of their own desire. That's what I get to do in this industry. No overhead, literally like laughable amount of overhead, which is pretty much close to zero. And I can live wherever I like, no location dependence. And so you don't have to go in this direction. I'm simply laying out the framework of what can you do to live the life that's in alignment with you. And what I've learned in the process, set out to be the best. I learned that as a kid. So when I came into what it is that we do with Purium and the Wellness Legacy Club, I went into the compensation plan and I went to the top. What is the top person? Like, what is the top of this? What do they get paid? What is required of them? What kind of person is this? And that, yesterday I was taking out my garbage cans and there was a salesman and he was walking door to door. This just happened yesterday. And we started up a conversation because my neighbor had rabbits running around the yard, and the kid was like, he was a kid, he was 19 years old. He was like, dude, do you see those rabbits? And I'm like, yeah, man, they're out, they're all over here all the time. And he's like, what do you mean? Whose are they? He like thought they were pets. And I'm like, no, there's just rabbits here. My dog is always chasing them too. And And so anyways, he was going to just skip over my house because I was taking out the garbage cans, and he didn't, it was kind of, he, I guess, and I stopped him. I was like, yo, are you selling something? He's like, well, I'm actually not selling something. I'm just talking to people, like salesman type thing. I'm serving people. I'm not selling people. And I was like, yeah, but what's your product? Like, cause I just come out like, what's your product? He's like, I'm with AT&T, and we're offering people the best internet and five gig, and no one else at 5 gig. I was like, well, I got 7 gig here, so with Frontier, so I don't need you. But you work for AT&T, and they have you going door to door, knocking on people's houses that all of us have internet already. He's like, yeah. And I started asking questions, and he's like, actually, today's my first day. And I'm like, oh, that's why you're out here. They're kind of just seeing if you have what it takes, seeing if you can get any sort of service. It doesn't cost them anything to send you out here. And if you get something, they weren't going to send people they pay out here. And so it makes sense. And anyways, we chatted for a little bit, and he was young, and he was asking me questions. And the thing that I told him, I was like, hey, you have to find out. So first I was like, you reading any books on sales? And the answer was no. I was like, you have to be in the game, bro. Like, get in the game, listen to books, find podcasts, find mentors. So I told him a few mentors. And then I said, you also need to find out the numbers and who is the best person that's doing the job that you're doing now. And look at that. Like, what sort of sales does he have? How much is he doing? What does he look like, or she? How do they dress? How do they talk? And I said, you're likely going to find someone that's probably like 27 to 29 years old, and they're going to look like a lot more professional, probably better, like just strong, grounded presence, confident. And it's good for you to know where you are and where you're going. And then that allows you a direction to go because you're going past that. So you know what you are right now, and if you don't have any sort of indication on which direction you're going, you're just going to continue being that. And who even knows if you're going to get any better? But if you are doing something now every single day, which is a job for most of us, look at the person who's also doing that same job that's the best at it. And that's the direction that you're going. And you're going past that. And so if your intention is to go past that, you're going to start moving in that direction immediately now. And maybe with enough momentum, you can sort of change. Maybe you don't dress like that person. Maybe you don't work out every day like they do. Maybe you don't comb your hair the same way they do or whatever. But you need the momentum in that direction first. And so I invite everybody watching this right now to do the same thing. Whether it's a job, whether it's creativity, whether it's service, strive for number one, because that's you. You are one. You're the one of one. You're the one of self. And if you're not going in the direction of being better, and who better to first visualize that than the best person doing it, right? Or if, like, when I was younger playing hockey, what better to visualize than like, I'm going to win the last game of the year, which is the champion. Most teams lose their last game of the year. It's only the champion that wins the last game of the year, because you go from the regular season to playoffs, and then everyone in playoffs gets eliminated. And so everybody's last game is a loss, except for the person that wins. And so those are little bits of advice from me based on my experience. Take them as you will. If you're still listening right now, then this message is made for you, apparently, and you've positioned yourself in this, and I'm speaking for a reason for you to hear, and you're here for a reason for me to experience as well. Be number one, have both feet in, don't have one foot in, one foot out. Be clear, be specific. You can also be clear on what you don't want, as long as your sense of identity, your sense of self, which is the same thing, your values, your direction is very clear, because then that will work for your baseline intention. And then the don't wants is actually like refining that, like the statue of David was in the rock. and all the artist did was chip away what wasn't the statue. And so if you're strong as a rock as a person, then it's okay to be clear on what you don't want. But you need to have that strong stability first so that you don't get knocked around and then all of a sudden you're doing something that's not in alignment with who you are and not in alignment with your values. And act when the door opens, go into it. Otherwise, you will be crushed. You will be crushed when the universe conspires to support you and you turn the other way. There's all the momentum moving that you created. You created it to move in the direction of your desire. And if you turn around and move the other way, you're going to get ran the F over, just like a train running you over. And you're going to know exactly why that happened. And you're going to just so clearly envision what could have been if you would have just got onto that flow, because the actual thing that's running over you is all of the energy that came to support you, and it's going to be just colored in with what could have been, and it will likely be painful and glorious at the same time, because you're going to know that you created this and you had control of that. And so with that, happy living, and go create your dreams, because we all desire to live in your dream world, in our dream world, as opposed to like the 1 foot out, getting ran over by our own intentions that we don't take and getting pigeonholed into circumstances that aren't in alignment with our values because we didn't really have a sense of value. That's it, and that's all.